Prayer to me is, to put it simple, is basically worshiping Allah, worshiping our Creator. It's being humble in a sense where you know anything in life that you have right now can be taken from you in an instant. We were born in one day, and one day we will die in one day, and we don't know when that is, and we never will know. And we have to understand that in that period of time, on your gravestone there's going to be one date, and then on the other part of your gravestone there's going to be another date. There's that dash in the middle is huge. That's all the time that we're given by Allah. And now, obviously, we have all our own things that we love to pursue, but we can never forget, and we can never forget to worship our Creator, because Allah was the one who gave us all these opportunities, gave us the opportunity to live this life.
Yeah, you can be the greatest, you can be the best, you can be the King Kong banging on your chest, you can beat the world, you can beat the war, cause you're so much stronger than you've ever been before. You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock.
My name is JP. I go to Rutgers University. I am a political science major, and I minor in history and economics, and I'm a revert Muslim. So what does a typical day look for me? Well, right now a typical day looks for me is I wake up around 6 a.m. Inshallah, I'll want to wake up earlier for Fajr and to work out. But I wake up around 6 a.m. and brush my teeth, take a shower, have some breakfast, and I head to where I went to middle school. The place everybody dreads. That's like the worst years of our lives, 7th and 8th grade. And I currently am a substitute teacher at my old middle school in North Plainfield, New Jersey. And right now I work there because the schools need substitute teachers, and it's good money, it's easy money for the moment. And I work there from about 7:40 to 12:20. So it's very short, easy money. And then afterwards, I go about being a Rutgers student. I have online classes, which everybody dreads. We all miss going to Rutgers. Who knew we would miss going to school, going to class? And I try to get a workout in every single day. It doesn't always happen. And my nights are basically filled with just relaxing, playing video games. And so what? I played football from the time I was 5 years old all the way up and through high school.
And your position is?
I was a center. I played on the offensive line. I never played wide receiver a day in my life, and I ended up as a wide receivers coach. Oh. It's crazy how things work out. I'm a person who I played sports my whole life. I played baseball, wrestling. I played hockey, and football. So this was something that kept me busy, occupied, have something to strive for, achieve for, literally every day of the year. If I wasn't playing football, I was wrestling. If I wasn't wrestling, I was playing baseball. And if I wasn't playing baseball, I was playing football. So when I left high school, that was gone. When I first started coaching football, I was 20 years old.
Yeah. How did you get the people to respect you and stuff? Like, you only two.
This is something that was really interesting and really challenging, honestly. My first year as a football coach, I was in a very backseat, laid back role. I was 3 years older than some of the kids on the field. In fact, the seniors at the time were freshmen when I was a senior in high school. So a lot of these kids, knew me from when I was in high school. So at the time of my first year of coaching, my job was very laid back. I was basically shadowing the other coaches, learning how they go about their job and such. However, this past year, so moving from year 1 to year 2, I said, hey, I want more responsibility. I want to grow. I want inshallah, maybe I want to coach at the college level, maybe for Rutgers, maybe not. Maybe I want to have more of a role coaching football. So this past year, I was given a whole position group for myself. So I went from just being an assistant to a coaches to now I have a group of 12 kids that I have to instruct by myself. And being only 4 years older, it is tough to gain that respect for kids, especially when you're coaching wide receivers. For those of you who don't know football, wide receivers are basically the biggest divas in the field. They're all about, I want the ball, and nothing else matters. So when you have to teach them to go out there and stalk block when they don't get the ball, it's a very tough thing to do because all they do is want the ball. But something that I do, and something that I have an advantage over than other coaches who might be older than me, is I try to relate to the kids. And I can relate to them in a much easier way than somebody who might be 50 per se. I'm probably more caught up on the trends. However, I'm not. It's quite surprising how things change. Things change really fast. But I do my best to use my age to resonate with these kids. My mother is an immigrant from Ireland. My father comes from a historically Italian-Irish family. That's why I always tell people I'm Irish, because I'm like way more Irish than I am Italian, even though I have an Italian last name. Sorry, Dad. I grew up Catholic basically because my mother and my father, well, my mother, not my father, my mother was Catholic. But like I said, it was very, very minimal. We went to church twice a year, on Christmas and Easter. Religion had honestly no role in my childhood.
In Ramadan, you just have to be looking for the opportunities, because you are a walking invitation to Islam. People know it's Ramadan. People notice that Muslims, especially their closer circles, their colleagues, their classmates, are fasting, they are not snacking. Conversations will reveal these distinctions between you and them in your day-to-day lifestyle. So if you're looking for an opportunity to tell people about Islam, you will find opportunities to strike these conversations.
So the first time I learned of Ramadan, the first time I saw fasting in Islam was when I was a sophomore in high school. It was when I was practicing football in the summer. It was July. This was back in like 2014. And, it was very hot out. It's very hot in New Jersey in July, and we're practicing on a football field with turf, so it's really intense activity and it's hot. And two of my teammates were Muslims, and they were fasting. And again, I was fascinated by this. They purposely did not take any water during this time, or all the way up until the end of the day, or any food. And it was something I knew took a lot of discipline and self-control. So fast forward 2 years later, at that time I knew I wanted to partake in this, but I didn't do it at the time. Fast forward 2 years later, I'm a senior in high school. I say, I want to participate in Ramadan this year. I knew I wanted to sometime in my life, and I said, you know what? Now is the best time in the world, because it's the only time you ever have. And at that time, I connected with a bunch of Muslims in my high school. And I actually, when I first started fasting, I didn't know the concept. This was before I converted to Islam. I knew there was 5 daily prayers. I didn't understand the concept of like when they were. So I was under the impression that it was from sunrise to sundown, which I was a little off. Because Fajr is a couple hours before sunrise. So I remember first being told, it's not sunrise to sundown, it's Fajr to sundown. And I'm just like, no, I messed up. So, but I mean, it was the first time ever doing it. It was tough. And every Ramadan, the first 3-4 days is brutal. It gets easier. It gets easier as it goes on because you become more mentally accustomed to it. But it was very freeing. It was very humbling, and I knew I was starving at 3 o'clock in the day, and there was nothing more that I wanted than a sip of water and some food. But I knew by the time Maghrib came around, it was around 8:30 at the time. I knew I was gonna have food, and it was extremely humbling because there's places in this world where unfortunately some people don't know where their next meal's coming from. And I knew that even though I was starving at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that by 8:30 I was gonna have all the food and all the water that I needed.
Many people think that Ramadan is about empathizing with the poor and the needy, and surely that is a fruit and a perk of the fast. But if that were the primary objective, then why do poor people fast who already feel this? And so it is far greater than that. There is an umbrella objective in the fast, and that is re-centralizing the divine in our life. That is the greatest source of all benefit in the universe. When God is prioritized, we do good not just because good feels good, but because good is demanded of us by our Creator. Not just because it's pleasing to us, but because it's pleasing to Him. And the benefit there is that you don't just do it to the people that you at the moment feel are deserving, and so on and so forth. And it also reminds us that the greatest act of good is being good to your Creator. It's not just about interpersonal, goodness. It's not just about what would be described as secular humanism. We have like a theological framework for humanitarianism. We have a theological framework for humanitarianism in Islam, but it doesn't even just stop at humanitarianism that is grounded in God. It is goodness towards God as well. And so this is what you want to remember when you're fasting. You are fasting because this is pleasing to the one who is most deserving of our dedication, most deserving of His pleasure being sought. He is the most rightful owner of any rights. This is also a subconscious training of us to have self-restraint for God and for whatever God dictates. You don't actually think about this when you're fasting, but there is like a rewiring that happens every year with this blessing of a ritual, which is, wait, there's 1 more minute, wait, there's 1 more hour, I can't have water anymore, dawn has come in. This is a profound benefit that helps us become the most productive, the most healthy, well-rounded human beings in our religious commitment and also in our worldly engagements. And then upon realizing this objective and these benefits of the fast, be they being good to God, be they refining our character and having self-restraint, be they empathizing with other human beings, then we start looking at the value of the fast. Am I actually getting these things out of it? Am I just abstaining from food and drink and falling under the statement of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that some only get out of their fast hunger and some only get out of their night prayers sleeplessness? Or am I actually getting the true benefit of this? And so you move on to now being conscious of God in your fast, remembering of Him more and more, cognizant of His pleasure and abstaining from His prohibitions. And then when you're there, there's a third degree of fasting that the scholars speak about, which is fasting from everything that will not get you closer to God. Because there are some things that are not violations, but they are also a wasted opportunity. I could have earned many more levels. I could have gotten nearer and nearer to my Maker in this opportunity, in this moment. And so you become conscious, and then after that you become careful, and after that you become consumed with this connecting with Allah project, which is the worthiest project ever. And so some people may fast and not get anything out of it. Some people may fast and what they get out of it is staying away from what could jeopardize their relationship with God. And then a third layer, there are people who fast and they do not impart any sort of interest in anything but what brings them closer to God. So this is a staircase, and you want to envision, where you want to be at the end of this fast, so that your entire life becomes focused and productive on maximizing this short lifespan that we have, treating almost the rest of your life like Ramadan in a sense, though Ramadan will always be special, so that you await your real breaking of fast, where there are no limits, no more prohibitions. Your real Eid will be the Eid that you actually meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter and get to see His face.
I'm more excited than I've ever been in my life, actually. Ramadan to me, in the past, was, and it still applies, was a time of the year that I loved and I did not like at all. Because I'm around non-Muslims on a daily basis, and I hear the question, why are you not eating on a daily basis? And it's in the past, it's something that I literally just tried to avoid answering. Be like, oh, I'll just health benefits. You know, I would just to prevent myself from getting any more questions. But since taking my Shahada, I've been so much more willing to say that I'm a Muslim to people, and I love it. It's an amazing thing, alhamdulillah. So this is the first Ramadan. This is the first Ramadan where if somebody asks me why I'm fasting, I'm gonna say I'm fasting because it's the month of Ramadan. I'm a Muslim, and Allah has commanded us to fast to show as a form of worship towards Him.
What about Eid?
Eid is a holiday that I never really got the chance to participate in. The Eid before COVID, so that would be Eid 2019. I actually went to a masjid in the morning, and I prayed. I don't know, was there a special type of prayer for Eid morning? Eid prayer. Okay, Eid prayer. That's very simple. We prayed that. And then afterwards, you know, we all just had donuts and this was all before the times of COVID. So there was like, you know, probably like 100 people there, 150 people at the masjid. And, but afterwards I just went home, and, you know, none of my family are Muslim. So there was nothing that I did. This year though, I have a lot of, I've kind of been adopted into like a Muslim family. So I very much plan on spending Eid with them, inshallah. So this is the first year where I'll have, you know, I'll go do Eid prayer, and then afterwards I'll do whatever Muslims do on Eid, which I'm very much looking forward to.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون.
Where I need to start, first and foremost, is working on my 5 daily prayers. Waking up for Fajr is not the most fun thing to do in the world, especially in the middle of the summer when it's 3:45 in the morning. That's tough, you know. So where I need to start is my 5 daily prayers, and inshallah one day I'll be getting, and I'll have a successful day where I get all my 5 daily prayers.
If a person thinks about it mathematically, prayer on time, as it must be, should not be difficult. 5 prayers a day, it takes 5 to 7 to 8 minutes to perform a prayer. You're talking about 40 minutes, 2/3 of an hour out of 24 hours, right? And so it really is about making time for what you believe is the most important thing to be doing in that point in time. It is not about finding time to perform 50 prayers, though it was going to be 50 prayers, and Allah reduced it to 5 while keeping the reward at 50 to show us how much He's alleviating us. He knew that it would become 5 ultimately, but began with 50. And so we could have been justifiably obligated to stop on a dime every half hour to pray. But the fact is, Allah is obligating us with just 5 prayers to not figure out a way to fit them into our day. There are even big windows, not even stopping on a dime, for each prayer, for you to make time for this. And so if it was a flight you needed to catch, or a deal that you needed to cash in on, you would have made time. Therefore, it is really about, why does the Quran call prayer faith? Because if there is no prayer, then where is the baseline of your faith? Where does it start? And so we would advise people, number one, to build their day around the prayer and to attach their prayer with very solid structures in their day. Like, I am in this place at this time. I will pray before my workout, in my break of class. To not put it off, marginalize the planning of prayer to the leftovers, like, oh, I hope I find time. Oh, I missed 2 prayers. This is the issue. Dealing with it casually and superficially is how you mess up on your prayers. That is why they say a failure to plan is a plan to fail. So we need to prioritize and realize this requires a little bit of premeditated planning. And if you want to develop any habit in your life, people say just tie it to something that is already anchored in your life. So if I want to review my Quran consistently, let me review my Quran in a slot of my day that is consistent, like my drive. If I have a half-hour drive, I'm going to be doing my Quran in that half hour. The prayer, same thing would stand. Find some point in time, before or after class, before or after work. That is the first part. The second part is realize that it is a matter of being committed to the prayer, not being interested. Because being interested is you'll do it when it's convenient. Being committed is you will not accept an excuse. Many times people tell me I cannot pray because I'm at work. And I tell them, do you realize that you are simply concerned of people seeing you praying? You're not really incapable of performing the prayer. And I tell them, you need to realize that people will respect you when you respect your religion, respect yourself and your beliefs. And I tell them, you need to realize that due to laws, religious observance considerations in law, your employer is actually more concerned about a lawsuit if they were to get in the way than you should be concerned about praying in front of your employer. So stepping aside to pray in a cubicle, if not in a staircase, making it happen, that's another practical advice. To think about the factor of maybe this is not the biggest problem in the world. Maybe they are more worried about getting in my way of praying than in me worried about me getting in their way or being seen by them. I'd also advise people to realize that so many people found Islam appealing through seeing the Muslim sincere devotion around the clock, stopping in a moment's notice to bow their head and prostrate on the ground to the creator of the cosmos who created them from that very dust. And so do not withhold from humanity an opportunity to see that they are all in oblivion except for a select few, and they may want to join that select few because of what they've seen of you praying.
Of the 5 pillars of Islam, I think Salah is, they're all very important, but Salah is the one that happens the most. I guess you can say you literally are obligated to pray Salah 5 times a day. You're only obligated to fast during Ramadan, which is only 30 days out of the year. Your Shahada it's something that's just always there, and Hajj you only have to do once in your lifetime. So I feel like Salah is the way you can Salah and dua are the way you can talk to God. Or actually, salah is how you worship God, and dua is how you can talk to God. It's this is coming. It's coming. Performing your 5 obligatory salahs and then as many sunnah salahs you can. It's showing Allah that you are submissive to His will. That you, no matter what happens in your life, you know it is in the hands of Allah, and that no matter that you accept what He does. You don't deny Him. You don't question Him. And by performing your 5 obligatory salahs, that's how you show Him that you are at His will, you are at His mercy. So I think the new schedule, inshallah, I'm not exactly there yet, but I'm working my way. It's not easy to wake up for Fajr. If somebody told you it's easy to wake up for Fajr, I mean, alhamdulillah to them, but it's not. Especially, when it's like 4, sometimes when it's 4 or 5 in the morning. But the schedule aspect of the 5 prayers, the 5 Fard prayers, I think is beautiful. I think if you revolve your life around those 5 prayers, you have a lot of room to establish a consistent schedule. Especially today in COVID times, I know I myself lost all sense of a schedule when we went into lockdown, and when we went all into online. Like, I was waking up at 4 in the afternoon and falling asleep at 5 in the morning. Like, it was rough. And if you follow these 5 daily prayers, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, if you follow them, right now Fajr's at like 5 a.m. or no, it's at 6 a.m. because of the clock change. It's like 5:50 a.m. and then Dhuhr's at like 1, Asr's at 4, Maghrib's at 7, and Isha's at like 8:30. If you follow them to the best of your ability, it helps really establish a good productive schedule.
It's humbling in a sense where I'm not perfect, and I am never going to be perfect, and I don't think any human being on this earth is going to be perfect. I think making mistakes is simply a characteristic of a human being, and what praying does is it tells us that we actually take a step back to recognize this, and we basically are asking for forgiveness. So prayer, in a sense, is I'm taking a step back. I'm not perfect. I recognize I make mistakes, and I will have mistakes, and inshallah, with this recognition, I can work on this, and I can make these mistakes to as few and as little as possible.
The Islamic tradition seems to suggest that you need to behave with such discipline with a creator who you cannot see, and that's supposed to translate you behaving in such a beautiful way with the creation that you can see. That if I look at another person and recognize that 5 times a day, whether someone's looking at them or not, they will take themselves away in order to fulfill the rights of their creator who they cannot see, that's supposed to translate into, when it comes to giving rights to your fellow creation, that you have the ability of doing that because you're disciplined with the unseen, so you can be disciplined with the seen as well. That's supposed to lead to a society where people can trust each other. Why? Because no one needs to keep tabs on you. There don't need to be consequences that happen right away. We believe in the idea of greater good leads to good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانَ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. What is the reward of good other than the best? And that's supposed to be this approach that we're learning, is if we constantly think about our trajectory in the hereafter, that'll also allow us to think about our trajectory in this world. That there are often times you engage in behavior which in the moment might be a little bit more difficult, but it leads to us being happier at the end of the day. Something as simple as even recycling. What is recycling at the end of the day? It might be a little bit more inconvenient to maybe dispose of our trash responsibly, but it's better for everyone in the whole, in the long run. These are supposed to be ideas that we should be on the forefronts of because of our spiritual practices that we engage in on a day-to-day basis. Practices like charity are really emphasized within the Quran and within the Islamic ethos in general. And what we really need to think about is the society it's trying to create. It's trying to create a society in which helping each other allows you to help yourself. Because when I give, I'm not actually losing anything. I'm going to be gaining because Allah will give me more. It's really taking people away from this idea of it's a zero-sum game. That if I'm winning, someone else is losing. Or if someone else is winning, that means I'm losing. This idea of finite resources, and instead changing them to appreciate Allah as Ar-Razaq, the one who gives rizq, who there's no limits to. So this idea of really behaving in a way in which you understand that if someone else succeeds, it's going to eventually lead to me succeeding as well. Me helping them is actually helping myself as well. That's oftentimes the mindset or the world view that our practices are leading us towards. And if everyone was to take on that worldview, imagine how much better of a world that we'd live in. That helping each other is actually seen as a positive thing. And what it also leads to on a very practical basis is we oftentimes divide ourselves by the haves and the have-nots. That even the spaces that we occupy end up being someone who's in oftentimes the same socioeconomic background as you, oftentimes even studying, having the same interests as you, maybe even the same race as you all the time. But when we look at a society that truly embodies Islamic worldviews and principles, look at the gathering of the Sahaba. You would have someone, Abdurrahman ibn Auf was considered so rich that quite literally he was the richest person that anyone knew. Imagine someone like Elon Musk walking into a gathering and sitting next to Abu Huraira, who was homeless. Can we ever imagine that happening in today's society? No. Then when you truly embody the Islamic ethos, what you get is actually the wealth of someone like Abdurrahman ibn Auf without the arrogance, and you get the sometimes even the poverty of someone like Abu Huraira without the humiliation. And they can both sit side by side and really view each other as human beings, because neither one knows what they're actually worth in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what really actually matters in maintaining their humanity. So there's this beautiful idea of how much more altruistic and how much more just appreciation of human presence that our tradition is supposed to be calling ourselves towards.
I always knew, even though I never had an established religion, an established path, I always knew that God existed. And finding Islam gave me that path and that religion. And why Islam? Why not Christianity? Why not Judaism? I kind of have this joke, and I don't know if it's a joke, but to me, Islam is like the final update. Right? We're always getting updates on our phones, on our tablets. Like, Islam is the final update. Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger. And everything that I've learned so far makes so much more sense as opposed to the other religions.
Perhaps the most important advice and areas of focus for a convert, number one, definitely has to be, without a perhaps, sincerity. Sincerity brought you into Islam. Sincerity now needs to be grown, and yes, there are levels of sincerity, needs to be grown and augmented, magnified, strengthened to carry you through this journey. The second would be to be good to your family. So many times the newfound religion, finding the truth, can get our passions ahead of our prudence, and we can burn many cards. We can burn many bridges, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was known for his character before he was known for his Islam. And as the scholars say, that your good character is the bridge upon which your arguments, your proofs, and your evidences can march into a person's heart. So be prudent, be wise, and realize that unless they see the Islam in you, they don't care what you have to say about it and what claims you're making on it. Be good to your family even if they're not going to embrace Islam, because Allah obligated you to do so. And if you want them to consider Islam, be good to your family, because there's no other way to do so.
So how should a Muslim accept a convert, talk to a convert, treat a convert, revert? You have to come in and you have to have like the ultimate like understanding of, I don't understand this person's shoes. I'll never, if you're someone who's born a Muslim and you're talking to someone who's a convert, you're not gonna know what it feels like to be a convert, and it's something that you have to take into account when talking to somebody. You have to be very gentle, very empathetic, because there's a lot of converts out there who have bad relationships with their families simply because they converted to Islam. And there's also a lot of converts out there who have, and myself included, have millions of questions.
Also, be good to yourself. Do not forget to cater to your humanness. The Quran, time and time again, reminds us that the prophets were human that were revealed to. Nothing but human, except that they received revelation and best embodied it as examples for us. Why does it do that? Because if they were not human, we would not be able to relate to them. And so it is a journey. We are human beings. We want to make sure we don't die hard and burn out. And so realizing that you need to pace yourself or else you will break down is the explicit advice of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to converts. The last of them is that because we are human and we are social creatures, we love stories very much. They carry us to realize and recall that people are going through what we're going through, have gone through what we've gone through. And so learn the lives of converts throughout history. It is so inspirational, beginning with the greatest converts of all, which is the entire community around the Prophet Muhammad. The greatest generation of Muslims, the Sahaba, his companions, were converts that sacrificed so much and endured so much and so showed such integrity, such valiant effort, such sacrifice, that sitting around their stories will carry us much farther than we would be without those stories most of the time.
If there's something that a revert does that comes in that might seem particular non-Islamic to you, what I would do if you were a Muslim is take a step back and listen and look to yourself and say, listen, do I do this because it's Islamic or it's because it's my culture? And when you're coming in from a non-Islamic culture, when you're coming in from not being a Muslim, you have no idea what's Islamic and what's culture. And we don't want to agree to this, but our culture has infused so much into how we practice Islam all around the world. So you have to understand that not everything that a revert, especially in the beginning, does, says, or whatever is going to be exactly the same that you do. And you just have to be extremely understanding and empathetic and realize that it's a journey. A revert is not going to become perfect the day they take their shahada. It's something that they have a lot to work on and that they need a lot of support in that.
A common misnomer that people have upon becoming Muslim is that they must openly become Muslim, meaning to everyone and anyone that they interact with. And this is not necessarily true. In fact, witnesses while you're professing the statement, the testimony of faith, are not required. You believing it and knowing what you're saying is all that's required. So of course, by greater virtue, informing your family, especially if that's going to cause you a great deal of duress or challenge, would not be necessary. Also, some people think you need to publicly change your name or change your name at all, and this is also not true, unless your name is a name that is irreconcilable with Islam, like diametrically opposite to Islam, like if your name was Lucifer or Satan or Christian, right? Then in that case, we would ask you to change your name so that you are consistently aligned in your identity as well. These were the only names that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, changed among the companions who were all converts to Islam. What is necessary upon becoming Muslim is prioritizing your learning of the prayer. because the prayer, salah, is your sila, it's your connection, it is your lifeline. It is to ensure there's dial tone, although there are no more dial tones in the mobile phone era. If you have prayer, the rest of your Islam can be built on it. Without prayer, you will struggle with your day-to-day life, religiously or just regular. Without the prayer, you will struggle to carry on in life in general and to advance yourself in your religious development in particular. That's why Allah told us seek strength through patience and prayer. It's also necessary that you connect with the Muslim community because we are social creatures, and Islam is also a lived religion, a communal religion where we feed off of each other and motivate each other. That is extremely helpful for the journey. And so the advice would be connect with the best Muslims available. That is necessary so that you are not like that stray sheep that is targeted by the wolf, and the devil will get you to second guess your decision, and he will act like the wolf that seeks out the stray sheep. So abide by the community was the advice of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, because the wolf only eats the stray sheep. And so do not stray from the flock and try to find the best flock available to imbibe Islam's belief and value system through that.
The Muslims around you almost like a family, or you kind of like on your own, or how'd that go around? And ever since then, have you found yourself with a second family per se, or has it been like?
Let me help you here. Let me rephrase this, because I didn't take my shahada until like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
I don't know if I didn't make that like a point of emphasis. I didn't like say that, but I took my shahada on like January 24th. But what I will say is that my intentions of taking my shahada were far before that.
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Like,
yeah, it was. Yeah, so like, cause I had Muslims like in my circle for like 2-3 years, like in my close circle.
Wait, 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
I saw you like the day before, like 2 days before COVID.
Yeah, dude, I would come to Juma and everything. I did. The thing is I was Muslim in my heart. I just never took my shahada, and it was like I mean, to be honest with you, what happened was I made a promise to my my api, which is, for those you don't know, is like bigger sister in Urdu, that she would be present at my shahada, because she played a huge role in about getting closer to Islam, and we kind of lost touch a little bit, but I did not want to break that promise, so that's why it kind of went off the drift a little bit. But we reconnected a couple weeks ago, and I said I need to finally get this in. But yeah, I took my shahada on January 24th of 2021. January 24th of 2021.
That's insane.
So to become Muslim, you don't really need to do anything or know anything but the first pillar of Islam. And that's essential, to know that recognizing that Allah is the only one worthy of worship, Almighty God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, alone without partners, to profess that while believing it at heart, and that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was his final prophet and messenger, is all you need to enter the fold of Islam. And it's necessary for us to recognize the duty of not complicating this. Islam is a process, it's a lifelong journey for every single one of us, even those that were born Muslim. And so this is simply the gate to enter Islam, and you don't want to delay people or delay yourself and then get caught, may Allah forbid, locked outside of that gate with the expiration of our lives. So learning about Islam, so much of it happens by disclosure from God. In other words, you try your best to find His truth. You try to study His words, the glorious Quran. You try to study example, the prophetic example. You try to study the prophetic example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And then you await and ask Allah to open you up, make you open-hearted and open-minded to adopt these beauties, these truths, these virtues into your life. That element of adoption is a disclosure. It is a gift where He opens the floodgates of inspiration and of motivation for you. And so being eligible for this requires sincerity with God and to remain at His door knocking. and also remaining around people who are at his door knocking, so that it will open for you, or it will open for them and you'll be allowed in as well. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said that. And if this cannot happen in person, then seek a virtual community. But of course, the virtual world has the potential of distorting our sense of reality and also facilitating all forms of temptation and indecency and corruption. And so we have to be very particular about what we consume from the virtual world. We don't sit back and passively consume whatever comes our way. No, we are methodical and we are protective of our hearts and of our faith. We take the good and trim out all of the evil. Many a times people build their faith in the virtual world from one angle, and the very next post, the very next few inches they slide up their thumb to, destroy their faith. And so God is blessing you with a rebirth. He's blessing you with a, if you will, a new lifeline, a blood transfusion. Make sure you're not bleeding it out the other side. Be protective of your faith and seek it through the Quran, seek it through the Sunnah, seek it through community.
So advice I have for other reverts is be very patient and kind on yourself. You stepped into Islam for a reason, and I feel like there's a big negative stigma within the Muslim community that you have to be perfect. We're human beings. Nobody on this earth that's a human being is perfect. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to make mistakes to the day we die. And that's why we repent. And that's why we ask Allah for forgiveness, because we make mistakes and we are sinful. And that's why it's important that we do repent and ask Allah for forgiveness. So is to be very gentle with yourself and be like, and to understand, listen, I might do this right now, and it is something that I want to work on, but it is not something that I am going to beat myself to death over. But I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to make progress, and I'm going to make strides. I think at the end of the day, for reverts and for those who might be lost wanting to step into Islam, I think the biggest thing is to understand is that when an idea has been placed into your heart, Allah placed it there for a reason. There's going to be doubts, no matter what. There's always going to be doubts in your head, but Allah placed this idea, Allah placed Islam into your heart for a reason. And that reason is to follow it and guide it and work your way towards building a better relationship with with Allah. So while your head might be giving you doubts and people in your life might be giving you a hard time, remember that Allah placed Islam in your life for a reason, and to always follow your heart and to never let your head stop you from following your heart.
And the world's gonna know your name. Cause you burn with the brightest flame. And the world's gonna know your name. And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, you can be the greatest, you can be the best. You can be the King Kong banging on your chest. You can beat the world, you can beat the war. Cause you're so much stronger than you've ever been before. You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock. You can move a mountain, you can break rocks. You can be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you will find yourself standing in the Hall of Fame. La la la. Everywhere you look, everywhere you go, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, everywhere you go, there's a face, somebody who needs you. La 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 la. Whatever happened to the good old days? Talking to friends for hours, swore we'd never go away. Like the ocean winds, a little crazy trying to fit in with the scene. Cause how do you know where you're going if you really don't know where you've been? Oh, everybody eventually says that they're as lost as you. So everybody shout it together. Hey, don't say
Assalamu